Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shill dust, lacers, peasants, vassals. I'm a useful idiot. Today I want to talk about the passing of Nelson Mandela. Now that it's been a week or so, and his funeral is concluding. And I know a lot of pundits have been quick to come out and point out all the sordid past of Nelson Mandela. Like all figures in history, there's a lot of complexity to who Nelson Mandela was. And but I don't want to get into that. I'll attach some of the stories below for those who want to find out. On this day, on this week of the passing of Nelson Mandela, I just want to focus in on this icon of the 20th century and what he did represent. And what he did represent is that one man can change a nation, one man can change a world for better or worse. And Nelson Mandela was in prison for his political activities and his thought and his actions behind those principles. And he served 30 years in prison and came out a man of humility, a man of forgiveness, and a man who wasn't seeking revenge. And I'm not sure if I could do so well under those circumstances. So that said, my condolences, and I honor Nelson Mandela in this moment. And as my regulars know, though, what I really want to focus in on is the appropriation of a figure like Nelson Mandela as a tool of the state. And I did a video before about how this was done with Martin Luther King and the irony of the very state that persecuted him while he was alive, tried to silence his ideas, and then ultimately killed him, is the very state that champions him now and creates this mythology and maintains this mythology and this iconography. And here we have it on a global scale. We have all these states that were involved in the persecution of Nelson Mandela and what he represented. We have nations all over the world that jail political prisoners on a regular basis for years and decades. We have governments all over the world who indulge in surveillance and torture, and they are now all honoring the memory of Nelson Mandela and appropriating the idea of Nelson Mandela somehow representing values that they aspire to. That's the ultimate hypocrisy to me, is to see all these states out there saying they aspire to those values when all the evidence points to the persecution of people that exemplify those values. Look at the community around the globe that supports ongoing apartheid policies in Israel, and that's just a matter of fact. I'm not picking on Zionists per se. I'm just pointing out the very facts of the situation in Gaza Strip and Palestine and Israel's relationship to them. And so then you have the political opportunism to the nth degree come out for these events. And so you have pikers like Rick Santorum who end up with egg on their face because they're so inept. Rick Santorum, for example, tried to make a comparison between his fight against Obamacare and the fight against apartheid. So he completely missed the point. But that doesn't make the ones who are good at political opportunism any less shameful. Barack Obama being number one. Once again, just like with Martin Luther King, the only thing that Barack Obama has in common with Nelson Mandela is the color of his skin. Other than that, Nelson Mandela represented powers against the state, and Barack Obama represents everything about the state. Here's a president who is scouring the globe to arrest Edward Snowden, a man who a government that has put Bradley Manning in prison for life. We have black sites around the globe perpetrating torture on a daily basis. We have a President Barack Obama who probably receives daily memos on how the force feeding is going on down at Guantanamo, and who is making every effort to silence opposition across the United States with a lot of questionable techniques, including police brutality and the surveillance state. So for this president and this country to champion Nelson Mandela in this moment is a little questionable at best. So we also have to remember that the United States relationship with Nelson Mandela has always been an adversarial one. It was the CIA who helped South African intelligence put Nelson Mandela in prison in the first place, and then through the Reagan years, Nelson Mandela was labeled as a terrorist organization. His group was named as a terrorist organization, and in fact, Nelson Mandela, I believe, was on the terrorist watch list up until 2008. So, so the irony of it all. So here we have Nelson Mandela being appropriated by the state all over the globe, and maintaining this iconography, this mythology, as if the world and governments around the world exemplify these values of Nelson Mandela. And just like all icons, they are worth more dead than alive, because then the mythology can be maintained exactly the way it needs to be in order to achieve the desired propaganda effects. And it's as simple as that, because that's how cynical leaders are, and that's how crass a world we live in, and that's how we know that hypocrisy continues to be the coin of the realm. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.